So I was tagged in a video where someone was explaining or going through the recent news that Trinidad and Tobago is going to be buying bunker fuel from Petrotrin, the Jamaican's refinery. And in that video, many people are very upset because Trinidad had a Petrotrin, a Trinidadian refinery that once upon a time produced all of these varying fuel products from our own raw materials that we got out of the ground right here. We refined it right here and we produced it right here and sold it right here, made the money for it. Now, Petrotrin has been shut down and it has been split up into smaller companies, and now we have to import this stuff. We are importing things that we once made and that made us money, and many people are very upset about this, and I could understand why. That's a very understandable reality. But I think there are some factors in this that maybe some people aren't looking at as detailed as they should, and not defending any political entity or anything in this, as I am sure some people would be glad to believe, but I think facts matter, and the reason that we do things, it really does matter. Why was this done? What was the purpose for this whole thing? So we're going to dive into some of that. Let's see this video first and see what we could get from this. All right.
Exporting fuel oil to Trinidad?
For the first time ever, Jamaica, Petrotrin is exporting fuel to Trinidad and Tobago. And to that, we're looking to a million barrels of fuel oil, valued at about 90 million US.
Did he just say a million barrels? That's Telroy Morgan, the general manager at Petrojam, Jamaica's oil refinery. Now, Jamaica actually doesn't produce oil, but Trinidad does. So this announcement took me completely by surprise. But apparently, Petrotrin has been down since like 2019.
Trinidad, who has oil, their refinery shuttered about 6 years ago, and so they have been importing. But over those many years, Petrotrin has been trying to get in, so to speak.
And this is an important factor to keep in mind with this, that it's not just that Trinidad started importing this fuel from Petrotrin. We already have been importing fuel for a while now. So this isn't a new development in terms of us importing fuel. So the level of anger some people have at, oh no, look at us importing fuel, it's misdirected because we have been doing this now for some time. Now, this video gets even more controversial to some extent because the presenter goes on to basically say that the powers in the Caribbean, the power levels in the Caribbean, if you will, are having a little switch around with this, that the players in the Caribbean are changing because this means Jamaica is now in a more ascendant position while Trinidad is dropping lower, and pointing out also the problems we have with Forex relating to our lack of sale of these resources. If we cannot sell these resources, we aren't getting that much Forex. Now, bear in mind, even with this talk about the change of the balance in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago is still very much the economic power of the Caribbean. That has not changed, and it doesn't look like it's going to change necessarily very quickly, but it is something that people are bothered by. But the Prime Minister to be, Mr. Stuart Young, who interestingly enough is currently our energy minister, good position to be in to discuss these things, he had something to say on this whole issue. Young defends fuel deal with Jamaica. Energy Minister Stuart Young took aim at the naysayers and mischief makers yesterday, proudly defending Jamaica's export of marine fuel to Trinidad and Tobago, stating that he is proud of this development. Young said Paria's partnership with Petrojam Limited for the bunkering of marine fuels was discussed over the last 2 years. The initiative, he said, would continue to strengthen the TNT's government's the TNT government's relationship with Jamaica. News of Jamaica exporting fuel oil to Trinidad and Tobago spread on social media over the weekend, prompting paria fuel trading to issue a release on Sunday. Paria stated the marine fuel is not intended for use in the domestic market, but is exclusively designated for the country's bunkering operations, serving international marine operators, including cruise ships, container vessels, and other international marine vessels. The bunkering operations would be a net contributor to foreign exchange earnings, paria added. The agreement with Petrotrin for very low sulfur fuel oil is a preliminary arrangement encompassing a 6-month contract with a maximum total volume of 540,000 barrels at an approximate cost of US $50.2 million, determined by prevailing international pricing. And paria receiving its inaugural shipments from Petrotrin on February 1st, amounting to approximately 50,000 barrels. He added he sought to alleviate the concerns and eliminate the mischief. First of all that you're seeing with this transaction we've negotiated with Jamaica is the fulfillment of a commitment that I made to Jamaica. We began discussing, Minister Vaz began discussing with me for the last 2 years how we could promote the bilateral relationship with Jamaica, he said. Vaz is Jamaica's Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport. Young said paria was set up following the closure of Petrotrin, which had suffered billions of dollars in losses and was no longer profitable to run. If Petrotrin had gone from a positive to a negative by the time it was shut down, we had to write off over $12 billion in losses. So Petrotrin was no longer refining in a manner that it could be profitable, he said. Young said the deal would promote bilateral relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. It is a promotion of our bilateral relationship with Jamaica, of which I am very proud because they're a close partner of ours, as well as CARICOM. This is what CARICOM is meant to be. So all we're doing is ensuring the principles of CARICOM are carried out. So it is a net foreign exchange earner and a fraction, 500,000 barrels compared to 17 million that paria purchases a year. We could not refine this product in a profitable manner the way we are choosing it and selling it now, he continued. And according to what he is saying, they're doing it at a profit. So Trinidad and Tobago will be getting a profit out of this. We will be receiving money from this operation. We'll be making money, making foreign exchange from this operation, according to the Minister of Energy. So says Minister of Energy. And the reality he's highlighting is that Petrotrin was failing when it was closed. And many people seem not to believe that. Many people are annoyed by the closure of Petrotrin and take nothing the government says about Petrotrin and the reasons for its closure. They take none of that to be true. But here's my problem. The problem for me, I don't mind you saying that Trinidad should have a refinery because we are producing the raw product. Fine, we should. We should have that refinery. But when we had the refinery, it was running at a loss. And if it was running at a loss, the discussion in keeping Petrotrin cannot be that, well, we should have just kept Petrotrin. No, because Petrotrin was losing us money. The discussion has to start at a point like, okay, how could we have kept Petrotrin? What could have been done differently that would have allowed Petrotrin to stay profitable, to stay making sense as a company for us? What could have been done differently to allow that? And obviously something had to be done. We could not continue running Petrotrin the way it was running. And people who benefited from this whole thing, to me, they seem a bit selfish in this discussion. If you were part of the Petrotrin gravy train and you were making money, you can't just say, I vex because my job gone and we should keep Petrotrin. No, because the rest of the country was losing money. So the rest of the country was losing money to keep you in a job. And we can't just say, well, we should have kept the job and kept losing money. That doesn't make sense. So the discussion has to start at the point, okay, what could have been done differently to make sure and ensure that Petrotrin was profitable? What could have changed? Let's look at this. This is I love the AI products they have out here these days. The ability they have to process large amounts of information into nice, usable amounts. Petrotrin, the state-owned oil company of Trinidad and Tobago, operated from 1993 until its closure in 2018. In its final fiscal year ending September 30th, 2018, the company reported an operating profit of approximately 1.67 billion. This figure represents earnings before taxes, depreciation, and financing costs. However, this operating profit was an exception in Petrotrin's later years. Between 2011 and 2019, the company's financial performance was as follows. 2011 had a profit of 2.4 billion, 12, 1 billion, 13, 15 million profit, million and not billion, 15 million profit, and then from 2014, we switch over. 2014, 201 million loss. Now, I'd like people to look at the years of this, in case you're getting tempted to say this is a UNC thing or a PNM thing. The UNC was in power, well, the People's Partnership headed by the UNC was in power starting at 2010 all through to 2015. So the trend line was going on since the UNC was in power. We were on that downward roll. From 2011, 2.4 billion, 2012, 1 billion, 2013, 15 million. 2014, we started to lose. 201 million loss. 2015, 1.04 billion loss. 2016, 4.6 billion loss. 2017, 2.2 billion. 2018, 16.5 million. 2019, a loss of $9.3 billion. Over its last 5 years, Petrotrin averaged annual losses of approximately $6.8 billion. These significant losses, coupled with a debt exceeding $12 billion, led to the company's closure in 2018. Following its dissolution, Petrotrin's operations were restructured into several entities, including Heritage Petroleum Company Limited, which focuses on exploration and production, and Paria Fuel Trading Company, responsible for fuel trading and marketing. So, if we're discussing Petrotrin, we can't start the discussion of Petrotrin at the point of we should have keep Petrotrin open. We have to start the discussion of Petrotrin at the point of, well, we were losing 6.8 billion on average per year. That's what a beer, 6.8 billion per year. That's more money than Tobago's budget. That is more money than our sister island's budget. We were losing every year. So if the discussion on Petrotrin has to go on, we have to start at that point. What were we going to do about a 6.8, nearly 7 billion average loss per year? And there was a report around the closing time of Petrotrin. Around that closing time, there was a report there. And let's look at the details of that report. The Solomon Report was a critical performance review of Petrotrin conducted before its closure in 2018. It had assessed the company's efficiency, financial health, and competitiveness compared to other global refiners. Here are the key findings. 1. Low refining efficiency. Petrotrin's refinery was ranked in the bottom 25% globally in terms of operational efficiency. High operational costs made it uncompetitive compared to other refineries. The high operating costs, the company's cost structure was unsustainable, with excessive expenses in payroll, maintenance, and procurement. All of this has to do with the people involved in Petrotrin, and that's why so many people up till now are complaining, oh no, Petrotrin closed down, what we gonna do? Because they were part of the payroll, maintenance, and procurement of Petrotrin, so their pockets were being well greased while Trinidad was being sucked dry. And then these people will turn around and say, oh no, we should not have closed that. No, you can't start at that point. You have to start at a different point. Excessive debt, Refining margins were too low to cover costs, another problem, leading to continuous financial losses, excessive debt and financial instability. Petrotrin had accumulated debts of approximately $12 billion. It was struggling to repay loans and meet financial obligations. There was a declining oil production. Domestic crude oil production was decreasing, forcing the refinery to import crude at higher costs. The refinery was operating below optimal capacity, worsening inefficiencies, poor asset utilization, and aging infrastructure. Many refinery units were outdated, requiring costly upgrades and maintenance. Delayed investment in modernization contributed to the inefficiency. So, the company wasn't being managed good, so things were falling apart at the seams. And now to seam back up everything would cost a lot of money to a company that isn't making money right now. Environmental and safety issues. The refinery had a poor track record in environmental compliance. Several safety concerns were highlighted, increasing regulatory risk. So, you have to start with those problems if you want to change out this Petrotrin, if you want to return to this Petrotrin discussion. How do we get around the payroll, maintenance, and procurement costs that were leaching the company down to the ground? And OWTU, the union in charge of the workers of Petrotrin by and large, around the time of closure, they gave a proposal, the union gave a proposal on saving Petrotrin. The OWTU proposed a restructuring plan for Petrotrin, the state-owned oil company, as an alternative to the government's 2018 decision. Their plan aimed to keep Petrotrin operational, improve efficiency, and avoid mass layoff. Of course, that's what they're looking to avoid. One of the main problems with Petrotrin was carrying around this heavy weight of extra workers being paid exorbitantly and not increasing the efficiency of the company. The union comes in. We have a plan. We don't have to close. We don't have to close. We could do this, but we're not firing anybody. No. Please don't fire anyone. Key points of the OWTU's restructuring plan. Maintain integrated operations. Unlike the government's decision to split Petrotrin into Heritage Petroleum and Paria Fuel and Guaracara Refining, OWTU proposed to keep Petrotrin as a single, fully integrated company. So the whole behemoth of a company that is weighing us down, no. Let's not get it shaved and efficient. No. Maintain it as is. Upgrade and improve the refinery. Instead of shutting down the Point of Air refinery, OWTU suggested modernizing it to increase efficiency and profitability. They emphasized securing long-term crude oil supply contracts to maintain operations. Here's the issue. The company was at a 12 billion hole. So, to modernize this refinery, it was going to cost the 12 billion to get it out of the hole, plus several other billion invested into this company. Why, as a country, would we have invested maybe 15 more, probably upwards of that billion more, into Petrotrin when it's losing money? What is even the promise that modernization would be enough to return it to profitability? Was that an assurance that could have been made? I highly doubt it. And long-term oil supply contracts, because our own supply was decreasing, they were talking about long-term oil supply. Now, when we get into discussing Jamaica, Petrojam, because that's where we're getting the supply from, and people are like, look at how Petrojam is doing so much better than us. They aren't following news about Petrojam. Petrojam isn't a fully fledged profitable company. They fluctuate in profitability. It's not like every year they make money. And a lot of the reasons sometimes they lose money, even though it seems like they're better managed than Petrotrin was, a lot of the reason they lose money is because they have to buy that crude oil. There was a point in time they were buying the oil for more expensive than they could sell it basically. They were running at a loss because of that, and they don't control that price. And if we were decreasing in our production of crude oil, that similar thing could have happened to us. We would have had to purchase the crude oil from international sellers. And would we have been able to refine it at a price that would have given us a profit? Doubtful. Financial and operational reform. proposed debt restructuring instead of a full shutdown, and suggested reducing inefficiencies, including cutting excessive management costs, while preserving the jobs of rank and file workers. And here's the thing. In WASA, management was a big issue. In Petrotrin, management would have been an issue too, but it wasn't just management. They spoke of cleaners clearing 15 to 20,000 inside of Petrotrin, and that's not an insult to cleaners. By all means, if a cleaner could make good money, I'm happy for that. But that's not a market-based thing. It's not like they were making money, that's why they could pay that much. The company was losing money while they're paying the rank and file exorbitantly. So how could you say that to save the company, we have to keep all of these workers? Encourage partnership with investors without losing national control over the industry, and I'm not sure how that's going to be done. This is that kind of leftism, fairyland nonsense. So you're going to get the investors to come in and put money, but still it's under the nationalized control of governments. Governments that come and go, and governments that keep hiring their friends and putting them in the rank and file of Petrotrin, and now they're unfireable. As I've said a long time ago with Petrotrin, a major part of the issue was this same union. Because when the government would come in and hire their friends and put them in Petrotrin and give them a nice salary, when the next government comes in and wants to hire their new friends and put in them inside of Petrotrin and give them a nice salary too, they couldn't fire the old set because the old set are now unionized under the OWTU. So all that could happen at this company is just addition. There could be no subtraction because they're unionized. So you avoid all of that by shutting down the company, and all of those unionized workers can go bye-bye, and you get a new company and attempt to do something with that. Revenue generation and sustainability. They advocated for a strategic plan to improve crude oil production in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, like it's that easy. Proposed expanding Petrotrin's market reach and securing deals to export refined products. Right. So, I don't think that plan from the OWTU was close to detailed enough, was close to even identifying and solving the issues that Petrotrin had in order for us to keep it open. OWTU proposal basically was keep it open, keep paying us, and the rest of the country will pay for it. Sorry, as part of the rest of the country, I wasn't okay with it. I am not okay with it. And if that means that now we have to buy fuel to sell it, then so be it. Because at the stage we were at, it wasn't working. And some may ask, so how can Petrojam do it? Well, they have a different equation. Their industry isn't the same as ours. And something to keep in mind, I was looking at the Petrojam's annual statement because I was trying to find out exactly how profitable they are. And I mean, they as I said, they fluctuate in profitability. So it's not a clear thing of they are a profitable company or they are a losing company. They fluctuate. But within their annual statement was a nice little note that I found interesting, and it highlights a difference in the calculations when looking at companies like Petrojam and then looking at Trinidad and Tobago, because they aren't in the same country, they aren't in the same market. What they're aiming to do aren't the same thing. So let's look at a bit of their annual statement here, and I'll read just a tiny piece. Refinery divestment. Amid the topical calls for divesting the refinery, it is worth highlighting that the guiding principle for its acquisition in 1982 is as relevant today as it was then. So, just to keep in mind, in Jamaica, they also call for the government to divest from this company, to get out of this business, to get out of the refinery business. And I'm pretty certain that call would be made because of the occasional losses that the company faces. But they have a reason that they are in the refining business. The reality is that for a non-oil producing developing country on a vulnerable island, a stable and reliable energy sector is vital, particularly given the risk of exogenous shocks disrupting fuel supplies. We don't have that same reality necessarily in Trinidad and Tobago. We are oil producing. We are well integrated into the fuel supply chain. We don't generally struggle to get imports. The fluctuations of the market aren't that critical on us. In addition, it would be unprofitable for any privately owned entity to counter the volatility in the global oil market by smoothing out the spikes in price as a cushion to Jamaican consumers, as Petrojam does routinely through its pricing mechanism. So, part of what Petrojam does is they smoothen out the spikes of the volatility of the market. What does that mean? And why wouldn't it be profitable for a private company? Because they lose money doing it. It's part of their national infrastructure, if you will, part of the national plan to keep prices stable for the Jamaican consumers. So this company puts in government money so that if prices spike, they could keep it low and run at a loss. And they don't have to go according to the market that much, smoothing out that volatility for consumers. Do we need that same thing here? Is that a necessary thing for Trinidad and Tobago? Are we at the whims of the international volatility of the sector? Or do we still have a stabilized pricing business where our government still puts money in to stabilize these prices? Now, the fuel subsidy, granted, is being removed slowly over time, but nonetheless, we don't experience the international volatility in our prices. That doesn't happen here. So, the reality that Jamaica has to face isn't the same reality that Trinidad and Tobago has to face. And then the history of these companies aren't the same. The profitability of these companies aren't the same. And if it is the case that Petrotrin was losing money and now we could have a different setup that can gain money for us, because the proposal that they say here would increase foreign exchange. So why would we be upset at this? The Petrotrin proposal was losing money, while this has the potential, at least if we are to believe what they're saying, to gain money. What's the problem there? That's all I have for now. Tell me what you think. Do you think that Petrotrin should have still remained open? Forget the market, forget profitability. It's the government's job to give people a work. And all who have to pay the taxes to keep the company running, well, pay your money. Or are you of the view that maths has to maths? The maths has to be mathsing in order for the company to stay open. And the maths wasn't mathsing, so we had to close it. That's all I have for now. Tell me what you think. Drop a comment. Make sure you hit that like button. If you are not yet subscribed, be sure to subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Laters.